all my life, my family equated food with comfort and love. And that's why I got into the mess that I'm going to talk to you about today. My name is Lana, and I am a carbohydrate addict. I didn't realize it. I went through all my life until just a couple of months ago, not knowing that I was a total 100% addict. I just thought I like certain foods. I love ice cream. Mashed potatoes, my favorite of all time. Mac and cheese, can't get enough. On and on and on. Yeah. But then I started the carnivore diet. Now, I didn't start the carnivore diet because I wanted to lose weight or break my addiction or anything like that. I started it because a friend of mine told me that she was on it and she was doing great. She looked better. She felt better. Her mental state was better. Everything was better. And I hadn't seen her for a couple of months, and I saw her and I went, wow, you look great. She said, oh, I found out about this diet called the carnivore diet. I'm like, what is that? And she told me. And I remembered I saw, I think Justin Rhodes from the Homesteading channel. He was talking about it when he had some type of arthritis or something. I can't really remember the details. But he said he was only eating meat, and he showed these giant pieces of meat. That's what I have for dinner. And when I saw that, I went, wow, that is extreme. But I saw my friend Susan, and oh my God, she looked tremendous. So a little while later, it wasn't right away, a few months, maybe a few weeks later, after Christmas, I went to my sister's house for Christmas. And yeah, I'm single, so I go to other people's homes for Christmas. And my family's far in the north, and I'm in Florida. So my sister lives in South Carolina, so I went to her house for a couple of days. After Christmas, I got there on the 26th, and I left on the 28th, and I got such a terrible stomach ache. I was in serious pain, but not enough to go to the emergency room, not enough to think, oh, something is terribly wrong with me, but enough to make me really uncomfortable. And it went on for 3 days. Now, I've been having stomach aches off and on for a long time. Every once in a while, for no reason that I could think of, I would get a stomach ache. And my stomach would just ache and ache and ache and ache. And then finally, it would go away. And I didn't really think too much about it. But at Christmas that year, it was getting worse. And I remember driving back to Florida and thinking, I've got to do something. I've either got to figure out what's going on here, or I've got to have to go to the doctor. Now, going to the doctor for me, not my favorite thing to do. I have 2 children who have been chronically ill for a number of years. They've been the doctor route. It didn't get them very far. And I really lost my trust in that. So my modus operandi is try some things and see if you can figure it out. So on the way back to Florida, that 7-hour drive, I thought, I'm going to try the carnivore diet because it's an elimination diet, and it's going to take all the chemicals out of my diet. It's going to take all the processed foods out. And I thought that would be a place to start. So when I go on it, I'll stay on it for a month or two, get myself leveled out, and then add things back one at a time and see if I can figure out what's happening. Well, that seemed like a plan. So that's what I did. December 28th, I started the carnivore diet. And for me, it wasn't quite as strict. Some people go with just beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, the BBE diet. But I didn't do that. I went with any kind of meat, just no carbs at all, and no grains or anything like that. No vegetables. Even if they were low carb vegetables, no vegetables. And I was eating a little bit of cheese and eggs and bacon, of course. Not too much bacon, though, just once in a while. That was what I started with. And I made chicken, I made beef, I made pork, and I made seafood. And I was okay. I didn't feel deprived at all. Actually, I was really liking it, which surprised me because I always told people that I'm not a meat eater. You know, I would eat a little meat, mostly vegetables, and lots of starch. Why? Well, I found out. And within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I started feeling amazing. No more stomach aches, no more anything. I mean, my digestion settled completely down. I always had tension in my stomach and a feeling of, like pressure in my stomach, even when I was resting and feeling fine. That went away. Everything just calmed down. I calmed down. I've had anxiety problems all my life, and I have just through force of will not gotten on medication because I don't want to be tangled up with a doctor in the medical field and all that stuff. I want my body to work on its own in a healthy way. And my numbers have always been pretty good. So, yeah, everything calmed down. My anxiety. I was on the way to the airport. This was maybe, I don't know, a month or so. Well, it really wasn't that long because I flew to Boston around the 15th of January. So I've been on the diet maybe 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. And I realized I wasn't anxious. I always was anxious going to the airport. What did I forget? What's going to happen? Am I going to be late? I'm going to miss my plane. All this stuff going through my head. I was chill. My brain was doing good. Was having a good day. And that was a real wake up call for me. I mean, it was like, wow, this is doing more than I thought. This is doing more than just fixing my stomach aches. Huh. So I got to Boston and I went to my event. I spoke at Harvard, by the way. I did a Blue Talk at Harvard on that trip. And I came back 3 days later. And when I got back, I thought, well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to get some artificial sweetener and put it in my coffee because I still was drinking coffee. Every morning, now this is my mug. I'll just show you. It's pretty big. I think it's 16 ounces. And I would have that every morning. And so I was putting heavy cream in my coffee at that point. And I thought I loved having sweet coffee. That was one of my things. That was one of my things I couldn't live without. If I got to a hotel or something like that where I couldn't get my coffee the way I liked it, I was upset. I would get really upset. Now, I wouldn't make a scene. I'm not that person, but I would be upset. And I remember going into McDonald's and getting iced hazelnut coffee. That was my thing, iced hazelnut coffee. And I would taste it and it would be wrong. They put too much syrup or not enough syrup or whatever. I'd be upset. So this was emotional. I had emotional attachment to my coffee. So up until then, I had been drinking it with just electrolytes and it was a little salty. And I thought, I'm going to try. And I got some artificial sweetener. I forget what it was. Put it in there and I drank my coffee. And within an hour, I felt this nails on a chalkboard, deep craving. I mean, I had never experienced that before. With the beginning of the carnivore diet, I kind of slid into it and I didn't really feel that because I was more focused on, my stomach aches. But as soon as I had that artificial sweetener, it was, oh, and I was holding on and I did not cheat, but man, was I in misery. I can remember laying on my bed, closing my eyes. I couldn't work. And I'm just going, please let me get through this, please. And it lasted for hours. It lasted till after dinner. It started in the morning, lasted till after supper time. And at that point, I remember standing in my kitchen thinking about what had happened. And something clicked in my head. You're addicted. You're addicted to sugar and carbs. And immediately I knew that was true. Now, there have been some things that I've learned along the way. By the way, I'm a published author and I write fiction. I write nonfiction for clients when I ghostwrite, but I write fiction, and I've learned a lot about a lot of different topics because of research from my writing, as well as the fact that I have two children who have been chronically ill for many years, more than 10 years, one of them more than 20 years, the other one. And so I know quite a bit about a lot of things. And when I realized that my craving could be attached to addiction, a whole new set of information came into me. I'm an addict. I'm a carb addict. And I can remember how I felt eating mashed potatoes. I can remember how I felt eating mac and cheese. It was more than just I liked it. Like, it tasted good and I liked it. It was more than that. And I knew that night, I knew I can never, ever eat sugar or carbs again. Never. Because if I do, my health is going to spiral down and I'm going to end up in a place I never wanted to be. I knew it. There have been a few moments in my life when I knew something that deep and that intense that changed my life. And that was one of those moments. It was that deep and that powerful. And so I have been on this journey. And as I've been going through the YouTube channels and sitting in the live streams of all of these wonderful stories and these people sharing their insights and their what they've learned and their experiences and their recipes and all of these different things, I never could cook a steak well. I couldn't cook it right. It didn't taste good. It was tough. I didn't really know how to do that. A chuck roast, I had one way to do it and it was okay. But as I said, I wasn't a meat person. And I've learned how to cook meat so it tastes great. I've learned that from all these people sharing freely of their expertise. And I keep hearing the word carb addict, but I've not really seen a focused delivery of what is addiction. What is it? How does it work? What are the lies we tell ourselves? How do we get through it? And what are the sabotages and the landmines that happen to us along the way? Addiction is real. And whether it's a carb addiction, an alcohol addiction, a drug addiction, a porn addiction, who knows what, there are so many of them. There's reading addiction. There's video game addiction. And so I wanted to share not only my story, but the story of others. So when these moments happen to us and we get that feeling, we have some tools and we have some understanding of what's going on up here. Because this is a brain thing. It's a brain chemical thing. And we can, if we have the knowledge, we can turn off that baby and shut it up. And that is what I want to bring to the table for you and for me, bringing our stories forward. So if you have a story about how you realized you had a carbohydrate addiction, if you have a story about how you managed a carbohydrate addiction or anything like that, or maybe you're an expert or maybe you know an expert, please reach out to me. Reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram account is Lana McCara #2. Lana McCara #2. And I will be so glad because I want to be bringing in people. I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist or a scientist or anything like that. I am an addict, a survivor. And so I'm bringing my heart to this channel, and I want to bring some experts in as well. So thank you so much. Please subscribe, share, and comment to help a lot of people. I've seen so many people struggling with this, and we talk about meat, but we don't talk a lot about this. And this is the key to not falling off the wagon and cycling back. and falling off the wagon and cycling back, because that's what happens. Thank you so much.